items, you see those listed there. Look for a motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Lori.
Second.
Thank you, Ken. Any discussion on those?
I'm gonna abstain.
Me
Okay.
too.
Lindsay and Lorelei abstain. Anybody else? Okay. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as provided, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, good. Consent agenda is approved. We've gone to difference makers. Let's go.
Yes, this month we have 3 pillars of learning, partnership, and stewardship. Our first one is under the learning pillar. Mr. Verslois and Mr. Meldrum, I believe you have someone that they'd like to present to this evening.
Good evening, thank you. To help with the JC Reed movement, the Simonson English team, which is here today, Brian Knight, Tony Mariani, Julie Wonkum, and Amy Forney. Amanda Moreland is not here tonight. They created the Simonson Outreach Program, which we are currently implementing this year. In about August, before school started, they came to me and wanted to talk about our RTI and Response to Intervention program from the English side, which we do in English and math at the 9th grade, and wanted to look for a way to try to kind of enhance that or put a more of a positive spin on it. And so this is an 8-week program where students at Simonson 9th grade center that are struggling with reading are paired with students from East Elementary in preparation for meeting the buddy reader at East School. Simonson students selected children's books that were age appropriate for elementary students. Simonson students then spent 4 weeks practicing the reading of their selected children's books and honing skills such as making inferences, making predictions, summarizing, recognizing vocabulary, and understanding theme. They also practiced reading aloud skills such as fluency, pitch, tone, pace, and eye contact. Once they perfected these skills, they visited East Elementary to read the books read the children's books aloud to a buddy reader at East Elementary. This event was full of energy and excitement, both from the freshman level to watch the freshmen do it, and then also with the students at East Elementary. Then over the next 4-week cycle, the students wrote their own children's stories, and they were learning about concepts such as setting, character, problem, and theme. They also practiced writing skills such as developing a beginning, middle, and end, as well as revising and editing their writing. Once their written stories were complete, they developed a comprehension activity to do with the elementary student after reading their books to them. Then the East Elementary students came over to Simonson to listen to the newly written children's book and to engage in the comprehension activities developed by the freshmen. Again, this event was full of excitement and just for everybody involved, the looks on the little kids' faces when they got to come to a high school setting and to watch our students as they interacted with students that they had read with before. But the ultimate goal of the program was to foster relationships among students in various grade levels and to help instill a love of reading and to improve the reading skills for the freshman students involved. Of the freshman students who participated in the Simonson Outreach Program, 73% of them increased their reading level anywhere from 1 to 5 grade levels between the first reading diagnostic test in August to the second iReady diagnostic test in November. So we attribute this great success to innovative instructional designs of this group behind me. The English team was able to create a program that put relationships first, while inevitably led to student buy-in that resulted in improved academic success in the area of reading. Through their work with the Simonson Reading Outreach Program and through their daily instruction in their classes, the Simonson English team has fully embraced the hashtag JC Reads and the district's long-term goal of all students reading at their grade level. We are grateful for the willingness of the East School administration and staff to participate in this program, and then obviously this group of 5 individuals behind me.
I would just like to say on behalf of, or the board can speak for themselves, but just what an awesome thing, and thank you guys so much.
Great.
Okay, our second pillar is partnerships, and I had the pleasure of nominating Richard Smith is an employee of First Student who's here tonight. Richard, if you want to come forward, and Frank, if you come up with him. I drove bus 20. I said last week when I did this was I believe December 12th, and noticed Richard going above and beyond his responsibility as a bus monitor. He went out of his way to connect and greet students while also keeping the line of accountability. He redirected students when needed, stepped off the bus to have a conversation with parents at 2 different bus stops. This conversation centered around the idea of a team approach from both home and school for improving student behaviors. Thank you, Richard, for making a difference on bus 20, as we are definitely stronger together with people like Richard. So I was glad to see a work in motion. I know Frank has mentioned about how awesome of a job that you've done. Brandon, glad you're here as well. And with First Student, one of our goals to improve our bus routes and just perception of and educating folks that it is a team effort, starting at home and also at schools. We work together. So Richard, congratulations to you as a difference maker. How you get in there, Frank? There we go. Thank you, guys.
It's not that sophisticated.
Our third pillar of stewardship, Joe Martin, I believe you have a nomination here, so I'll turn that over to you.
Good evening. Carrie Minix is a PC tech in the technology department, and I have the good fortune of working alongside her every day. And she plays just a key role in supporting the devices we have across the district. Most recently, played an integral part in the Mac to PC migration that at the elementary schools that I've been keeping you guys abreast of through the board bullets. And she was nominated for the stewardship piece by Sue Haugen, who is the principal at Moral Heights. And Sue wrote, Carrie Minx recently spent several hours, all caps, at Moral Heights assisting with the connection of a color printer for one of our SPED teachers to assist with her work. We so appreciate all the time she took to work through this process and inventory the printers in the building. Carrie was so patient working through these things. So with that, Carrie.
Okay, Carrie, thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you. I'll give a picture.
He's a mess. He's a mess.
There we go. Thank you, Carrie. Okay. Not officially nominating as difference makers. If you guys would look around the room and see the colorful outline, this is, talk about difference makers. These are our high school students, their artwork, that truly there is a glow about this boardroom with their artwork. Thank you guys. With their artwork around. And I mean, it looks professionally done. I mean, it is impressive. So kudos, Gary, if you'll pass along to our high school staff and art teachers, instructors, and Mr. James. It really brings some vibes out here. So they're definitely kudos to them. So over to you, Steve.
Moving on to reports and communications. We have a presentation for the Children's Services Fund from Dr. Joy Sweeney and Mr. Ed Story. You all may remember or may recall that in the last several weeks there's been a proposal created for a fund to serve children's needs in the Jefferson City area, and so we're pleased to have Ed and Joy with us this evening. Joy, as most of you all remember, is a former Board of Education member, so welcome back.
Great to be here.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for having us. So I'm glad that most of you have heard about it. Hopefully you're familiar with what we're asking and you've got the little handy dandy brochures. They don't say about who the committee is or who the treasurer is because it's not a proposition that is on the ballot right now. This is a proposed proposition. The county commissioners have the ability to put it on the agenda up until January 22nd. And so what we'd like to see is, we'd like to see the citizens of Cole County vote as to whether or not they think this tax would be worthwhile. And what it is, it's a 1/4 cent tax, so for every $4 you spend, instead of throwing it into the retailer's till for the next person to take as change, you'd be throwing it into a kitty that would help all the children throughout Cole County. Basically, when we calculated the cost, the number of people throughout Cole County, it would raise about $2.4 million, between $2.4 and $2.6 million. So for $2.5 million divided up by each person in Cole County, it would be about $30 a year. Would be all that people would be taxed. It wouldn't go on food, it wouldn't go on real property. So those kind of things are things that people have to consider when we're talking about a tax. The additional thing to that is all the people, I mean, we've approached many people that are from Maurice County, Callaway County, Boone County, that come to Cole County that spend money. And so all of those people would contribute to the health and well-being of our youth. And the tax, what it would do, it would establish a 9-member board, basically similar to the school board, only this would be a Children's Services Fund Board. They would initially be appointed by the Cole County Commissioners, and then every year, 3 of the members would be up for replacement. So that's how that would be, that's how the funds would be allocated. Entities throughout Cole County would apply for funds. It would not just be applicable to Jefferson City Public School District. It'd be Wardsville, Eugene, and Russellville school districts would also benefit from this service fund. So all of those communities, we're going to be presenting to all of those school boards as well. Basically, the evidence in the 10 counties, there's only, first of all, it was approved by state statute. So only the state statute made it eligible for counties to put it on the ballot in 1993. It's just been brought to my attention. That's why I'm bringing it to your attention and people in Cole County. Basically, what we've seen in the 10 counties that have approved it is a 50%, on average, a 50% reduction in high school dropouts, a 50% reduction in teen pregnancies, and a 50% reduction in juvenile crime. And I don't know about you, but last month hearing that 2 teenagers committed murder in our county was enough for me to say, we can't keep doing what we're doing. It's just not enough. We've got to do something different. And, you know, I don't know if this is the answer, but in the 10 counties that are implementing it, they are seeing changes. They are making a difference. And for every dollar that we invest, this is a Washington State Institute for Public Policy has seen that for every dollar that we invest in at-risk youth, they've seen a savings of as much as $11 in future substance use, criminal prosecution, imprisonment, health care, and other social welfare costs. So the cost-benefit analysis, the ROI, for anybody who's a money person, is certainly there in investing in our kids. Obviously, you all know the importance of investing in kids. That's why you're serving on the school board. Ed has some more things to add. If you have any questions, we'll just wait till Ed make some points here.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you letting us come here and talk to you about this. Here are some of the reasons why we need to do this. Only one out of every 5 children in Cole County is getting the services they need for their mental illness. Mental illness is many, many different things, as you know. The drug situation amongst the teenagers is on a fast track. It's not a slow track, it's a fast track, and it's a big deal, and it's getting bigger. And now that they've decided that we should have medical marijuana in Missouri, it's going to be even more of a problem. E-cigarettes have already been proven that they damage a child's brain up to the age of 25, is how long it takes for a brain to develop in a human being. This is from Department of Revenue, from the Department of Health, that 15% of the teenagers surveyed in Cole County have had tendencies for suicide. So we've got 3 big red flags there, and we have groups now in town that are helping all these situations, but they can only do so much because they don't have enough money to help all of them. They can just help a select few, and the majority of them are going without help. So this is why it's extremely important. And one more thing, on the mental health issue, Cole County has been federally designated, this is on your little deal, as a healthcare professional shortage area for mental health, which translates to lack of needed services, which is it translates to no money to do it. Well, we got a chance to get 2.4 million. Columbia's done this, they got 6.7, and the big deal there, really that impressed me, is that 3.3 million of that is helping the children in schools, helping their mental health, helping the drug deal, the whole thing. And you can give these to somebody and you can pass them out and look at them at your leisure, because it's really good stuff in there. I put the phone number of the lady who's in charge of it, who really convinced me this is something that should be done. And she is more than willing to give you she'll come down to your schools and help. We need to get people in the schools with prevention and intervention. And this will give us enough money to do that. We can hire these people to do this. So,
And there's the 10 counties that we mentioned before: Clay, Franklin, Boone, St. Louis City, St. Louis County, St. Charles, Lafayette, Lincoln, Jefferson, and Jackson. Those are 10 of the counties. And I mean, you know, I don't know, I can only make assumptions as to why the other 20 haven't, but like I said, this is the first time I ever heard of this. I didn't even know that we were eligible, and so that's why I'm bringing it to you now. We didn't have a lot of time to put it together for this April 2nd ballot. You know, maybe we end up educating people for a whole nother year and waiting for next year, but that's a whole nother 2 years before the kids actually see any impact. And it takes between 5 to 7 years to really see any significant change. And so I don't think we should wait. You know, we'll have to wait and see what happens, you know, whether or not people can get this. Do you have any questions that we haven't already tried to answer in the brief time that we're here? We didn't want to take up your meeting. I know you've got a lot on your agenda.
Thank you. Questions for Joy or?
Are you asking us to contact the Cole County Commission and ask them to, is that what you're asking them?
I asked them first off, because there's two ways of doing this. The 3 commissioners can put it on automatically at any time they want to, and if they don't, then the citizens have a right to go ahead and get a petition going. We only had 38 days to get 3,000 signatures, good signatures, which meant we had to get 3,400. It just wasn't enough time. That was my fault. I just thought this would be a walk in the park. It'd be a piece of cake. Well, it's not been. It's a big job to do it. And so anyway, the commissioners were kind in us. The deadline on this was the 4th of January. They left us to go until the 22nd, which is the last day it can be on the ballot, come up with 3,000 votes. It's going to be tough, but we're trying. It's going to be tough to do it. So, but at any time, the commissioners can put it on there.
Yeah, and so, I mean, if you would like to add it to the ballot, I've already asked Jim over in Wardsville, Blair Oaks School District. They've got 5 things that they're adding to the ballot this year. We've got the money to put it on the ballot. That's something that's already, you know, because that's often an an objection, excuse me, because people don't want to waste the money to put an additional item on the ballot. We've raised funds to do that. We've got the donation money to do that. So it wouldn't cost the county or any entity any money to put it on the ballot. If you would like to vote and as a board and ask that be done, we would certainly appreciate it, but that's not what we're asking. We'd love for you to get signatures, sign the petition, help us in any way that you can, show your support vocally. That would be great. Whatever you feel this is important enough to do is what we want you to do. So we're not really asking you to don't vote on it tonight or do anything. It's not an action item. Yes.
Has the commission, have the commissioners indicated that they would be influenced by, you know, a vote of the board, or that
They would
would
have-
have an impact?
They have indicated that they would be influenced by a vote of a grassroots effort. So they want to know that the people in this community are supportive of putting this to a vote of the community. Whether or not people vote yes or no, I mean, obviously I'm advocating for it, but I think that the people should be the ones that decide. It's like just having 1 or 3 people in our county decide this for everybody, when people at least should have the opportunity to understand that it's available to them and to our whole county, and that it would improve the quality of life for our whole county, and why and how, and the actual cost per person in the county is $32. Divide 2.4 million by 76,000 people, and it's $32. So that's what we're talking about, $32 a year for each person, and that's not even counting any of the money coming from people from outside of Cole County. It's very insignificant. When we say it's pennies on the dollar, it is pennies on the dollar.
Because this is such a big deal for the school district, talking to commissioners would be terrific.
Any of you that would be willing to speak to them would be advantageous, absolutely. And so we would certainly appreciate that, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your
Joy,
time.
one quick question for you.
One
if you
more
don't
question.
mind.
Sure, no.
You know, looking at the brochure that you gave and seeing the yellow box there, the Prop 1 will provide, and you've got a number of bullet points. Would out of all of these things, based on what you guys talked about tonight, the areas that you talked about, mental health, drug abuse,
Behavioral health.
suicide, that kind of thing, are those the focal areas that you all would see these funds really being targeted at if this were to pass?
These are identified best practices for addressing those concerns, yes.
Yeah. There are a lot of other areas, but these are the major things, but there are other areas that need help, the rape and abuse and special learning and,
Homelessness.
big time, special
But it
learning.
would be up
big
to
time.
the commission
The
to.
9-member
The
board
9-member.
would sit like you and
Who to disperse to. Correct.
exactly, who, and then obviously for how long, and then demonstrate, the organizations would have to demonstrate outcomes. I mean, there's absolutely no guarantee that any organizations that I sit on the board or represent would get 1 penny from this. But in my mind, this money would rise the tide and float all boats, and would help us all in the work that we do. And help all our kids. Bottom line, it's about helping kids.
And it would take a while for this to happen. It won't happen after about 2 or 3 years, you'll start to see it. Yeah, and then instead of this up thing hill, it would level out, and even the other counties that done, I could give you all the information, call any county you want to. It's good. It's just really good.
And most of the other counties have the information online, so you can access it. We can send you links to that if you want more information. We'd be happy to share anything you want. Reach out to us. You know how to get a hold of me.
Thanks, Joy.
Thank you,
And
Joy.
thank you guys for your time.
Thank
We
you,
truly
Joy.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Ed.
It's really important. Thanks.
Next item of business is a update from our Chief of Learning, Dr. Brian Schindler.
All right, thank you. Just want to give you some updates on a few items. So believe it or not, the Welcome Center has been getting geared up for kindergarten registration for next year. So that will actually roll out here in just a couple weeks. At the end of January, we'll be looking to do our kindergarten registration. And then all of our elementary schools will hold a kindergarten open house on April the 25th. From 5:30 to 7 o'clock. And so we're looking forward to that. It was a good hit last year, and so we're looking forward to that. Also, out of the Welcome Center, Dawn's office has been working with identifying a new platform for our data, for compiling our data reports and providing the data that we need to look at to get better. And so the system that we've been using, Tyler, although it's a system designed to produce the data reports, there's been struggles with it, and those struggles meaning that it's very difficult to, we have found it difficult to create the types of data sets that we need to help our teachers and just to support them. And so Dawn's been working with Tableau, and so Tableau is a platform that allows a lot more flexibility in creating the data that you need. And so she's received a lot of training on that, and we hope that this Thursday evening at the retreat that we're going to get to show you some of the products that Tableau actually helps support. These are data reports, and then the principals and teachers that have access to look at how students are doing with not just grades and assessments, but attendance and discipline, that types of stuff. So just wanted you to be aware that her office is working on that, and we hope to show you some more of that Thursday evening. Also, in terms of data governance and security, we have a policy, EHBC, and that policy states that our district will have an information security officer, an ISO, and we do have that. That is Dawn Burhorse. And so as part of that work and looking at that policy, a committee was formed by the ISO. And the committee's work is to ensure that we have the right structures in place in terms of our data, and making sure that we have secure data, our student information, staff information. So the committee was formed to start looking at what is the data that we have, what is our directory information, how are we sharing that information, is it information we want to share? So the committee has met once. They meet again, I believe even tomorrow is the next meeting, to have conversations about what would we do in the event of a breach, what would the steps be, and to make sure that we have the right steps in place to ensure safety and security of student data. And I know, Ken, you head up the policy committee, and so if anything was to come about from the committee, this committee work, we certainly would bring that to the policy committee. So just wanted you to be aware that that committee was formed, recently formed, and working. Last month, you remember that we had a conversation about going from a block schedule to a 7-period day, and you all unanimously gave us permission to start having conversations with staff, start looking at what would that look like, and engaging our staff members to design the 7-period day. I want you to know that there have been a lot of conversations going on. Mostly Mr. Verslois has had conversations with secondary staff and looking at what is this going to look like, how does it impact. And last month we had some students show up that are on the block track, and we're concerned about that, so they're working through those issues to ensure that we can continue those kiddos through their graduation, and we believe we have a plan. I can tell you that in the conversations that Mr. Verslois has had with staff up to this point, and with Dr. Lithcom, has been having the conversation about 7-period day when we go out and have conversations, staff meetings about the start and stop times. He's also having conversations with staff about the 7-period day and getting feedback there. I can tell you that to this point, it's been overwhelmingly positive in terms of going towards a 7-period day. And so if you have questions about that, I just want you to know that we are continuing that work to get those schedules set to make sure that we can make this work effectively from middle school and high school. Do you have anything you want to add, Mr. Verslois, about that?
Just that,
Come on up.
as Dr. Schindorf stated, that the principals went back and got additional feedback about the details of a 7-period schedule. And there's a lot of excitement about the flexibility it provides with response to intervention. Basically, how can you build within the school day the extra support that students need in a timely fashion, whether it be literacy or any type of learning. And they're really excited about the opportunity that the 7-period schedule provides. I know really there's been very little opposition, if any, that in fact, the one young man who spoke at last board meeting, I actually met with his parents. I talked to Mr. James, and he said, so we're still working on the transition for our upperclassmen to make sure they can take everything that they want. Mr. James shared with me that we offer 15 AP courses. In a 7-period schedule, a student can take 13 throughout their high school career. And he went back about 3 years as far as the percent of each graduating cohort and what percent of those took 8 or more AP courses. And I think like 3 years ago it was like 0.2%. And I think the highest percent of a graduating cohort that took 8 or more AP classes was like 5%. And so in the 7-period schedule, not that it's all about how many AP courses you can take, but we want to have a best fit. So a student could take 13 out of the 15. So and again, we're continuing to plan for those, especially our seniors, our upperclassmen, that if they were going to take a sequential course, so you have to take one before the other, or you have to take Spanish 3 before Spanish 4, and they're going to be a senior next year, we want to do everything in our power to make that work.
And I might just touch there, if I could elaborate. They touched on when we've been out to the buildings, JCAC, Bel Air, Nichols, Southwest, our Early Childhood Center, and East Elementary. When we've touched on, last May, we had 24% of our students in grades 5 through 9, 24% of our students were 3 or more grade levels below grade reading level. So we've got a significant chunk of folks that are 3 or more grade levels behind, and that makes your stomach churn. This gives us some flexibility to really target those students, especially at the middle school level. I think to really try to get them. We're not going to make it up overnight, but it's something I think that will give us a flexibility there. So that's just been very positive from the staff in all 5 buildings. Very overwhelmingly positive from our staff. So we'll continue, we're going to meet all 18 buildings and discuss that in addition to the start times as well. So we'll continue to work through that.
Any other questions about 7th period? Okay, Dr. Lithman said we'll continue with that process. The last update I want to give you is, so about a year ago, we were engaged in conversations, mostly at the policy committee, about drug testing. And the conversations at that time were about drug testing for students who were assumed to be under the influence during the school day and being sent to the office. And there was a belief that when they got sent to the office, that those students were being suspended from school unless they were to go get a drug test on their own and come back with clean results. And the concern was that many of the students didn't have the capacity to actually get to a center to be tested and didn't have the funds to pay for a test. What we found out at that time was that the number of students that actually that applied to was minimal. You could count on one hand, so it wasn't as significant as we thought. However, those conversations then led to our current practices for drug testing in terms of our athletic department. And we have used a drug testing policy for some time. We began having conversations about whether or not we believe our current practices were effective, because what we want is a program that is effective to accomplish what it is that we want to accomplish, is ensuring our kids are drug-free, but also a program that's reasonable and manageable. And so, once again, Mr. Verslois began having conversations with our ADs and looking at what are our current practices and what do we believe is reasonable for us to do to ensure that we accomplish what we want to. So I'm going to give my time to him now and let him share with you the conversations that he had with his ADs and some information that we'd like to bring back to you next month to consider, but it's for discussion tonight. So if you'll share your conversations.
Yeah, all right, so eventually this will be a board action item for the drug testing policy, but again, just a quick update. First, I want to thank Chad Reisner, who is involved as much as anyone. He's the head AD at Jeff City High School. And we don't want to lose the purpose of why we drug test our students who fall under a MISH activity. One, it's to encourage them to make good decisions and subsequently be a deterrent. If they're out and about and they're put in a tough situation, they can lean on us, the district, saying, no thanks, I don't want to partake. I'm participating in this. I'm going to be tested, or I can be tested. And if you're in a tough spot, sometimes you don't know what to say, and we want to be that crutch. We want to be that reason our students make good decisions. So just a quick couple highlights as far as where we're going with it. Right now, we do bulk testing. That means if fall, winter, spring, if you're going to participate something in that season, we announce to you currently when we're going to do it, and we test everybody. It could be upwards of 600. Our plan is to eliminate bulk testing and have the same impact with random testing. We want to have the same impact, but we want it to be less cumbersome. The amount of time that the ADs and their staff commit to facilitating the drug testing under our current format is unheard of. Now, I'm willing to commit time, but if we can have the same impact with it being less cumbersome for my staff, I think we need to look at that. Also, the number of instructional minutes that students are missing because of it. Mr. Reisner did some numbers for me, and it's like it's going to be more than cut in half. It's like 25,200 minutes of instructional time down to about 11,200 minutes of instructional time. And that 11.2 is like 5,600 in each of the high schools next year, eventually when they have the same number of students. So we still believe 100% that the overall impact of this policy of drug testing is a good idea, and it's serving a purpose, and it's helping students make good decisions. We just want to find a more efficient and effective way to do it, and we think the final proposal that we'll bring to you will do just that.
So we want to share that with you tonight. If you have questions or things additional to bring back, again, we're not asking for any action on this evening, but we'll bring it back as another discussion next month, but wanted to at least begin the conversation.
Or if, excuse me, both of you, if there's other things the board would like us to assess, review, consider, please move forward.
Go ahead, Scott.
So why do you have to announce it having the drug test?
That was one of the first questions I asked Scott. And just the pure volume of numbers to get organized is what I was told. I visited one of those Saturday morning bulk drug testing, and it's pretty involved to do it randomly, as far as how do you tell your vendors, how do you mobilize them, where do you do it. I'm not saying it's done. I've never tried it. We haven't tried it, but just the logistics of doing so.
So how far in advance do you give them?
Weeks.
They knew quite
I
a bit.
think it's
It's more
probably
of
a
an
couple
IQ
weeks.
test. If
And
you
that-
don't know, seriously.
So I understand what you're saying, but that's not really testing people if you give them weeks in advance to be able to prepare for a drug.
And that's why
Not
we
smart
wanted-
enough when there, it's an IQ test.
So, okay, so you're gonna have a better option.
I had to say, when I was learning more, back in my former years, I was an AD and I
Sure.
implemented a drug testing policy from ground up. First time I heard that we announced when we do it, I asked some more questions. But until you've been in that spot, I don't want to judge too quickly because 600 people, I get it, but I said, okay, I believe you, let's find a better way.
Because
We're still gonna test the 600 kids. You're just looking at implementing it in a
Well, they'll be in a
random phase
pool,
of
that
testing.
potentially they could.
Okay.
So my question would be, how are the random ones gonna be selected? Is it gonna be the same ones, the same student 6 times in 2 years?
It could be. It's.
If it truly
it's
is
a lot of-
randomly, I think
it's-
is what you're saying.
Yeah, so if you participate in 3 different events a year, your name goes in the pool 3 times because you're in 3 different events. It might not be pulled, it might be pulled multiple times. It's just each student participant is assigned a random number. Our vendor randomly draws numbers, and then those are the students that are tested.
So they're not selected, some of them are not selected.
So
No.
Is that
and-
random selection,
We don't
Okay.
select, yeah,
Okay.
it's random.
is that random selection a computer-generated selection, or is it a human intervention?
I didn't ask that. I
Okay.
can find that out.
All right.
I believe
I'd
it
be
is.
interested-
It's
I'd be
that
interested
vendor
to know-
Maryville.
I'd be interested to know how that selection process is.
I would think that we're beyond writing all these numbers in a hat and pulling them out. I would say
Exactly.
they put them in and it automatically
It's
generates numbers.
Okay, that would be one question. The other question I would have is just, I know when we talked about this before, there was one concern about the fact that it appeared there were multiple ways that even the random testing was being manipulated and gotten around, and it was quite well known, according to some people who have high school students. I don't have one, but it was pretty apparent that the students know how to get around, ensure that the solutions you come back, the recommendations you come back with are in fact legit, because if we don't, it's a big joke if they know that there are ways that they can get around it.
So we're aware of probably not all of those ways, but some of those ways. And so we are in conversations about eliminating the potential of those things happening. And quite honestly, be impacted by the turnaround time that we expect from the time that a name's been announced to the time that they show up at the location, because right now there's far too much time, and whether or not they're escorted. So we have things that we'll bring to you, but we're aware of those.
Okay.
With how we're doing it, we hope to, it's nice to just go get them and come on and have that visual the whole time.
Right.
And so there's no detours.
Right.
I think I know what you're talking about. Sometimes kids are a step ahead of us or half a step ahead of us, and we try to
Well-
catch up or at least be and make sure that we're going to have something in place. We protect.
That it's legitimate, yeah, and that we know, we've got safeguards in place to eliminate as much of that as possible.
So, to read back, if we're preparing kids for college, you're going to be athletes. NCAA, you get a phone call the night before and saying you're going to be in the training room at 7 a.m. to take your drug test. So why can't we prepare our kids the same way so they're not shocked whenever they get to college? I
I
don't
think at the NCAA level, somebody can be in the room with them when they urinate, and I don't know that we can do that here.
No, but you can send it. You can say, "Hey, Lorelei, you're testing tomorrow at 7 a.m." and they have to show up to take the test instead of saying, "Hey, next Monday you're taking a drug test."
It's the day of, when they do the random.
They call them out of class.
They call 'em out of
And
class.
bring them right to.
The day
See, I was told you got it, well,
No,
you
no.
just gave them, you said a 6-month advance.
That's
Well,
what
that
they're
was on
doing.
top of
They're
some
doing
of the
away with.
randoms.
With the bulk.
That's what they're getting rid
Yes,
of.
that's what they're getting rid of bulk.
Oh,
There'll be more randoms.
It'd be the day of.
then I take back what I said, the
You're good.
random,
You're good.
it was good.
You're good.
I sent
Lorelei, you have
you
thoughts?
an email. I mean, if we're going to look at this policy, I want to look at the whole policy.
Absolutely.
And my concern is back to the very first comment you had. The consequences for failing the drug test, and I'd really appreciate if all of you would read the policy. The consequences for failing the drug test is to get drug counseling. You have to be enrolled in the drug counseling, and you have to have a clean test. If you are a Medicaid student, to get into a drug counselor is nearly impossible. It's a 3-month wait to get in at Cap Region. So that prior AD was recommending a woman out at Lake Mikey. I don't know how a Medicaid student's gonna get out to Lake Mikey and pay $60 per session. And there's no minimum, I mean, it's at least 5 sessions to complete the counseling. And I think that that policy is paving a way for the kids with resources to accomplish this and the kids with not resources to not. And I think the kids with the least amount of resources are the ones who need to be in our activities. And so I'd love to find a better solution, at least maybe have someone who's willing to come to the school and give drug counseling. I don't know, but I don't like
I will
that.
make sure additional attention is brought to that. But Laura, I think that's anything we do as a district, whether it's procedural or policy, that it's equitable.
Agreed, and I don't feel like what we have is equitable given the shortage of mental health
The
professionals
ability
in
to
this.
reduce the consequence.
Right.
Yeah.
And for those kids to get drug counseling. I think if we're going to require that, we need to facilitate a way for them to get it.
Yeah.
That if you're gonna get at the core of treating and providing help.
Yeah, if you really want to keep kids off
I agree
drugs,
100%.
they can't do it alone.
It's like
I just-
any other-
If
it's
we're
like
gonna
any
do the
other
policy, I
program.
just want to do the whole policy. I want to get it right.
Yeah, I think it's like any other program that we provide students, whether it's academic or social or athletic, that you have to take a look at it and figure out what's working and what's not, and what the goal, what the mission of the program is, and what you guys can do to make it far more likely that we accomplish what we're trying to do there. So, no, we look forward to hearing what you guys have to present to us in February and some additional discussion.
I appreciate your working on it. I do.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Moving on to next item of business, CFO COO update from Mr. Hoffman.
Good evening. If you remember back in August, the athletic department and myself came to you and talked about scoreboards. And we went through the year-long process that we went through, evaluating 2 different vendors and settling on Daktronics as our vendor that we wanted to use. And then we said we needed to go forward and do fundraising. So we entered into a contract with Daktronics to help us with marketing of ad sales on the scoreboards. We've gone through that process. We've sold all of our ads except for one of our anchor spots. And then since our original plan, we've come up with the idea that we can also have ads around the 25-second clock. So we have a few more ads that we plan to sell. But we have enough money already allocated, contract signed over 5-year agreements, that there's enough funds already allocated to pay for the football scoreboard. And so that was what we had come to you at that time, just for permission to, we weren't going to move forward until we had that money. We now have the money for the football scoreboard. There are going to be video boards in both gymnasiums, but that'll be paid for out of bond money. But no bond money at all is going to go to the video board on the football stadium. But just reporting back that we have the revenue. We're going to continue to get additional revenue, and that'll stay in an activity account to go into the athletic department. But just letting you know that we have the money and we're now ready to move forward. So happy to answer any questions about.
I have one question. Were those ads sold on behalf of Jefferson City Public Schools
Yes.
or Jefferson City Jays football?
Jefferson City Public Schools.
Okay.
And the proposal that you initially brought also included some mobile scoreboards that might be used at middle schools and stuff, or?
So that'll
Are
be
those-
paid for out of district funds. So
Okay.
we've already moved forward with with the ones for the middle schools. We
Okay.
did that out of the athletic budget this year.
Okay.
And so we're moving forward with the boards at the bigger purchases. Those were, I think those were $1,500 for each of those.
Okay.
The only other thing I was going to mention, it was in my report in your packet, but just wanted to bring it up with the federal government shutdown going on. We get a significant amount of federal money. The only piece that was a little bit at risk is our food service reimbursement, so our free and reduced lunch reimbursement. And so in the report, it shows that the money has been allocated to cover all meals that are served through the end of February, which we would receive in March. But there's really no indication of what'll happen if the government shutdown extends past February. But we're going to continue to serve meals, and we'll figure it out as we go. So just wanted to make sure you were up to speed on that. Any other questions for me?
Doesn't appear so.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason. Good report as always. Dr. Lincecum, you want to close this category out?
Yeah, just a couple of things. As we look at making sure that, we educate students and protect the learning environment, what's best for kids, as we look at things, it always is a good reminder for all of us. I was able to participate in the Santa Day at Southwest Early Childhood Center. Many folks, many volunteers that made that happen. It's just a great thing to see our students excited to be a part of something that is a community effort, and all the folks were involved with that. So it was just a great thing. Last week, the Equity Council meeting, Shelby Scarborough facilitated, had some excellent discussions, divided up into some groups and with some tasks moving forward. Shelby, would you give a quick summary of that, please?
So we are in 3 groups. One is about access and success, the other one is community engagement, and the third one is about relationships and education. And so as a group, we collectively decided that in order to support our students, we need to support our families. So short and long-term goals for all 3 groups range anywhere from reaching out to our faith-based community to see how we can support families, looking at how, when we have new families come, are we providing the supports they need, really getting to know our families to make sure that we're providing them their supports to get them into our schools, and then looking at our teachers and giving them what they need so they can understand where our students are coming from. So it was a great discussion. We have some goals, which is exciting. Our next meeting is March 21st, and so we hope after that we'll have some outcomes of our short-term goals that we're working on between now and March 21st. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelby. I shared earlier with Richard was the monitor, drove bus on number 20, Morrill Heights and Thomas Jefferson. And if you know any bus drivers, you might thank a bus driver. It's an underappreciated and a challenging job, and it's opened my eyes to some things. My next bus is driving bus number 2 at Bel Air, so I'm looking forward to that. The inclement weather, just wanted to highlight on a couple things. If there are parents that are not aware, as you know, we had a snow day today. Anything that affects the learning environment, we want to protect that, and getting our students and staff to school in a safe manner is always important. So we didn't have school today. We talk about learning, partnerships, and stewardship. Most folks have an opinion about whether you should have school or not, and you have empathy and you respect that. And it's we got a lot of snow. It ended on Sunday, making sure our parking lots. Kudos to our maintenance staff, custodial staff, just did a tremendous job. We are planning on going to school tomorrow. We're excited about that. I hope folks are excited. Not everybody's excited about that. Maybe that's a little stretch. Some folks would like another snow day. But we talk about partnership, stewardship, learning, the stewardship piece. I asked Jason to determine our attendance rate this year is 94.4%. And our goal is 100% on our attendance rate, but that's what it's averaged so far. We've only been below 93 different times, and those were either early outs, late start, some other circumstances on that. And we anticipated trying to project. We've had school days in the past when most folks, the other folks didn't, or other schools, and you want to ensure a safe and learning environment. When you put the dollars and cents to it, our formula money is tied to our weighted average daily attendance. And we estimated, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, $24,000 to $25,000 is what we anticipated we would have lost in revenue if we would have had school today, and that's what if we'd had in the 80s attendance. Unfortunately, some folks just keep their students at home, and they have that right. We respect that. But, you know, is going in May a better day for funding purposes? I mean, $25,000, that's a lot of money, with stewardship being one of our pillars. So that doesn't mean we call up school to save money, but it is a wrinkle element of it because there's many, many factors. At the end of the day, we know that there were a lot of families. There were still, we'll see what our attendance rate is tomorrow, but there's some families that may not have the means to get their vehicles out of their driveways because it was a heavy, thick snow that has hardened somewhat because of the temperatures. So anyway, just there's a lot of different parts to it. Most folks are, you know, and it's a team effort. A lot of folks are part of this as we try to decide, you know, we're going to have school tomorrow, are we not? And I want to give folks and families opportunity and time to make plans accordingly, but also don't just call up school because everybody else is. I mean, there's a fine line there. So, had a coffee with Larry on January 4th. That was good. It was, folks, that's the first Friday of every month. We have coffee with Larry at 7 o'clock at the Miller Center. Invite folks to do that. And met with JCPD. We appreciate the partnership with them. I met with 3 of their officers and just discussed our school resource officers, our SROs, that we have in our school district, that we partner with them 50-50 to ensure a safe learning environment. So just looking at what's working, what's not, what needs to be tweaked, how can we get better moving forward, so I had a good conversation with them. So that's all I got.
Good.
Any questions on any of that?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Good report, Leonard. Thank you. Moving on, you see future dates there listed. We have a board retreat coming up in just a few days. Looking forward to that. Martin Luther King Day, no school for Jeff City. Chamber Gala, I believe you all have a little bit of information from the chamber at your seats. Please take a look at that. Always a good time if you get an opportunity to attend. The chamber is a business partner of the school district, obviously, and so good opportunity to network with chamber members. And probably the most important item on this list, a couple of dates coming up. The district has advertised these quite a bit, and I look forward to hopefully seeing a good number of folks attend these things. January 29th and January 31st at both of our middle schools. Melissa Clark first and Thomas Jefferson on the 31st, a town hall discussion about start and end times for district buildings. So looking forward to that. In the past, this has been an item that the district has explored, but hasn't always done a very deep dive with talking to the community and engaging stakeholders. So kudos to you, Larry, and those of you on the administrative team for taking the initiative to do that this time and making sure that we get feedback from parents and business owners and anybody that would be affected by that. I think it's, as I've mentioned before, and as you mentioned, I think it's got some real merit in terms of the potential that it will bring to keep moving us forward, but look forward to hearing feedback from the community on those evenings. So please make sure you guys have those on your calendar. If you don't, look forward to seeing you there. And couple of other items there you can look at your leisure. Moving on to old business. Start and end time update.
Yeah, just an update with that lead in, Steve. I think in summary, and we can have some discussion here, but what the schools that we've been to so far, we're going to go to all 18 of our schools, ask for staff input, parent discussions. I've had many conversations. We're anticipating, I think, 33 different community opportunities that they will have to ask questions, give their viewpoint regarding this. On the radio in the morning, folks can call in and ask as well. Coffee with Larry, other venues to express that. The two, I usually say, you know, things are in 3 bullets. If you have more than 3 priorities, you have no priorities. I'll even say this in 2. If we think that learning can increase, and if we think on the learning pillar in the stewardship, if we can save up to $500,000 a year, that we've got to look at it. So those 2 of learning and the stewardship piece, if we can say that, and how can those research might indicate that, how can those resources be used to carry out our vision and become the premier school district in the state of Missouri? So we're excited about that. Jason's done a tremendous job, and actually I've been a part of it, but Jason leads he's got a PowerPoint with our staff, and there's other AC members are at those, so kudos to them with this. So it is a team effort. We are stronger together. Jason, do you have any highlights thing you want to hit on or touch on?
No, they've been really positive so far. It's basically the PowerPoint presentation I gave to you in November, just tweaked very minorly. It's on the website. So far it's been very positive.
So, anyway, do you guys have any questions for us or anything on that? We'll continue to gather feedback, and I believe at the February meeting, we will have a proposal for a first reading, and then asking for an approval in March. So that's just kind of a timeline, and we'll bring back the feedback from folks, and as we navigate through that.
All right, so that'll give folks at least those 4 opportunities. You'll have 29th and 31st, and then you'll have a February meeting as an agenda item, and then March for action. So hopefully if our friends in the media make sure that you include that so folks are aware.
Here we go. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Moving on to new business. Mr. Frank Underwood, Director of Facilities.
It's the first time I've heard that. That's pretty cool.
Not the first time at the podium.
Announced anyways. All right, so I got several things to go through. The first one here is Central Power Systems. We have a backup generator running Area G currently, and we'll...
Clarification, Area G at the current Jeff City High School, right?
Jeff City High School,
correct.
And this is a service agreement through the company that had provided the generator, that we purchased the generator from, MTU. What they'll do is maintain the diesel motor it's a Mercedes diesel motor that's in there. What they'll do is service it on a twice a year. They'll come out, they'll bring it up to speed. 200 kilowatt generator. They'll run it for 4 hours and make sure that it's functioning properly, change the oil, do oil fuel treatments, fuel testing, water, all that. Essentially, the generator was about 9% of the total electrical cost of Area G. So it's just, to me, it's good business to take care of your truck, your vehicle. This is exactly the same. Actually, it's a lot more than a truck, but to take care of it. $1,500 a year. What we plan on doing is once we get Capital City on board, all the generators go to one vendor and have them service all of our generators. And I think that we'll be able to get better pricing. Currently, this generator's online. It does need to be serviced. So I bring this to you for consideration and approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Rich. Any discussion? Okay.
How long do you ever cycle that? Ever had to go to load?
I'm sorry.
Has the generator ever had to go to load? I mean,
No,
actually be used?
no. Now it did when we brought it online. We brought it to load and tested it and made sure that it worked and served the areas that we needed to.
Have you ever thought about cycling it in during peak and getting the power back on net metering?
That's an electrical question. I'd have to consult on that, but no.
Might be worth following up on.
Okay, yeah, do you mind if I make a note here?
I would agree.
Sounds like a great plan.
There's more than one time that we've had a client that they go to load and it melts down. So.
Right.
I melt down every day.
We can talk about it later.
Okay.
Should we
Yeah,
call
that'd
the
be great.
generator?
I melt down every day.
It'll be easier for you to recover from your meltdown than it will for if that generator melts down.
Right when I wake up.
Any further discussion on this item? I don't think so. All right, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Very good. Item's approved. Moving on to the next one.
All right, next is East Elementary. They have a stairway platform lift currently that is just, it's old, no more parts available for it, and so we need to replace it. AEL was our low bid for that. We had another bid that was higher, and then another company that was a no bid. And so what we're asking for is to replace this stairwell chair lift to get down to the cafeteria for any of our wheelchair students, and this bid is at $22,750, and I bring this to you for consideration and approval as well.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Ken. Thank you, Lori. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Very good.
Good.
Approved. Moving on.
All right, well, this is the big one here. This is Callaway, Callaway Elementary up in Callaway County. We run a huge lagoon up there. We're on our third extension through Department of Natural Resources to update the lagoon or get rid of it. And to update it essentially is just about parallel to the cost of connecting with City of Holt Summit sewer system. City of Holt Summit's gone through a few city administrators here. I was working with the one currently on this, and it kind of he disappeared, and so
Joe, you thought we-
I'm moving forward. I went and spoke with the mayor, and he agreed to let us keep going. And so what this is, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one, aren't I? I'm on the wrong one. But if you want me to keep going, we'll keep going. I just seen water and rolled on. But anyways, so City of Holt Summit, they're building a new sewer system to go to Jeff City. Currently, they run about, they pay for 200 million gallons, or 2 million gallons. They're about 60% of that capacity. They want our sewage. They're paying for it. The more they get, the better margins that they're going to make. What we're asking for is for the design of this through through Central Missouri Professionals. They're going to design it also as well as bid it, and then they will also part of this is the plan to take away the lagoons. It's a staged process, but they'll go away. So it's a forced main pump at the back of the property, and then the line runs about 4,200 feet to connect to Holt Summit's main. At that point, at the end of it, what we would do is turn it over to Holt Summit. They would maintain it, maintenance it, and as well as the pump station as well.
Yeah.
And what we're asking for here is just consideration for the Central Missouri Professional Services to continue with the engineering and architecting of this project.
For a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Larry.
Second.
Thank you, Lindsay. They want our sewage. That's a
They
phrase
want
I
our
never thought I would hear in a board meeting. Any further discussion?
All right, let's keep on going in order.
Let's take a vote on that one real fast.
Okay, good.
All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Very good. Moving on.
All right, boilers, a lot of boilers in our district, some of them coming offline. We really wanted to go to bid with this, but we have boilers and cooling towers that are going offline mid-year, 3 months into the year, and then 8 months into the year. So trying to bid this logically to other bidders, I don't believe it would be fair. It'd be fair for the company that we currently use. What we're asking for is a contract extension for 1 more year with them, and they have prorated out the towers and the boilers that are going offline as our construction continues. And then next year, we will take this out for bid based on what we have, our final product. This also includes time blowdown assemblies at Thorpe Gordon, Morrow Heights, and Southwest, where we're having issues maintaining proper pH levels and just the corrosiveness of the water that's going into it, and they require blowdowns. And so with all this together with the blowdowns is still a little bit less than what we already currently pay their services right now. So what I'm asking for is approval on this for a contract extension for 1 year for Chem Aqua.
For a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Lorelei.
Second.
Thank you, Lori. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Very good. Contract's approved. Contract extension's approved.
Extension, yeah. All right, sanitary sewer easement. Jeff City wants an easement in the back of our property over on St. Mary's Boulevard, which is currently the maintenance facility back here. It's in the back of the lot, in the gravel parking area. What they're doing is building a new, a lot of sewer here. They're building a new sewer line back behind there, and all those properties are obtaining easements. It'll all start with us there, and actually the Southwest Early Childhood is fed through a different main. Ours starts there. There'll be a manhole back here in our parking lot, which isn't an issue. Where it's located isn't an issue. It's far enough away from the house that it's not going to impede in any of the activities that we go there. So I don't know if you have to vote on this or just sign it, but it is a easement on our property.
We have it as an item. Do you have a
I think
legal
it ought to
thought?
be an action item.
I would think so.
That's
Yeah.
a vote from us. Huh?
I think, yeah, I think so.
Huh.
So we look for a motion to grant the easement.
I'd make the motion to grant the easement. We don't have to approve the form, do we, or? You have someone to prepare the form. of the
Right.
easement.
Right. I think Andy would have to form. We can get somebody to
Standard.
create that, standard form.
Okay.
Legal
You
counsel.
talking about an easement form outside of the one that they provide?
Yeah, we're not doing anything unusual with them.
No.
So we're granting it in premise.
Correct.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Lorelei. Do I hear a second?
Second. I thought
Oh.
Rich made the motion.
Oh, no, we
Motion.
did, I'm sorry.
And she
You're right.
seconded.
So you second.
Rich made the
Okay, very
motion, I
good. Yes,
second.
so-
You're out.
To grant the
Okay. Didn't mean to confuse you there, Stephanie. Yep, thank you. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Very good.
And then finally, this is one of our capital projects that we've been discussing, or Bob and his crew have been discussing, and we decided we need to go forward with this, is the Weber Building press box. I don't know if any of you have been outside of the Weber Building and noticed on especially the east side, or what I call east, Naples would call it somewhere else, but on the east side of the building, the paint's coming off, and mainly because there's no insulation between the block and the paint. And inside the building, when it gets warm, the boys are working out, girls are working out, getting hot and sweaty in there, the humidity rises, the block gets wet, and it's forcing the paint off the building. They painted it 3 or 4 different times with different vendors looking at it and seeing what was going on with it. It's still not working. So we've asked Architect Alliance to come in, take a look at it, see what it would take to insulate it, improve the quality of the exterior finish, as well as some improvements on the interior of the locker room, as bidding them as alternates. And then if it falls within budget, then we would do some improvements on the flooring in the locker rooms, and as well as the bench seating, and then the press box as well, some tuck pointing and caulking of windows and things like that. And so Architect Alliance is the architect and engineering of the project, and theirs is 117, no, I'm sorry, I got out of order. 28,000 for their services, and I'm asking for consideration and approval to move forward with Architect Alliance.
For a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Ken.
Second.
Do I hear a second?
How old is that building?
Let's get a second.
10 years old? No, you got a second.
She got a second right over
Well,
here.
your counting skills
You're
tonight.
muttering. Okay.
I didn't mutter.
Clearing the wax out.
I second it.
Lori seconded, and now I'm in discussion.
I'd have to go downstairs and
Did-
look, but I was thinking it was.
You just did a whole portfolio of what Bob Weber did while he was gone here.
Jason, do you
Wasn't-
know what year that was?
Is it like 10 years?
No.
2008?
No, it's
Yeah.
older than that.
It was not here in 95, 96, is it?
Right.
So between 95, 96 and 06, so 2000-ish? Give or take 5?
It's that new Weber building, our new.
It's the new
Middle
Weber
school.
building.
It'll look new when they're done with it.
That is a bit disappointing that that's happening already to them. But, okay.
It was not
Motion and a
designed
second.
built.
They should have had you here.
They should have done that.
Any further discussion? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Good, contract's approved.
All right, thank you and good evening.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank Frank.
Next item of business is Bridget Frank. Director of Special Services.
Thank you. I just have a quick contract for you to look at. This contract is for services of students with visual impairments. It's actually to cover a long-term absence of a contract that we already have in place. So what this contract does, it allows us to provide visual services to students with visual impairments. So that might include vision assessments, services, orientation, mobility to help students with visual impairments navigate the building and to provide some direct services. So again, this is just to cover a long-term absence that we have for about a 10-week period.
Questions for Bridget? For a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Second.
Thank you, Rich. For discussion? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Approved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Dr. Schindorf.
Okay, well, we are excited to wrap up our ELA resource pilot, and so you have copies of the quotes from the companies that we are recommending, and I just want to say to you that the recommendation that you have there, here's what it's going to provide for our staff. It's going to provide us a much-needed foundational skills piece. It's been lacking in this district, so we're excited about that. It's going to support teacher planning. It's going to align to our curriculum. It's going to support our data teaming process, and it's more important going to support an instructional practices consistency K-12. And so in front of you, or in your packet, you have 3 bids. One is for K-5 school-wide for $433,123.20. Another one, K-5 Pearson, which is $207,511.04. And a 6th through English 2, $349,861 for a total of $990,495.24. And I will say that that came in at $9,000 under budget. So the reason that there are 2 K-5 there. Hey, I could have said it went over.
We like that. We like under.
Wow.
Under is good.
Over and under.
Under is good.
The reason that there are 2 K-5 is because in the school-wide product did not provide us the foundational skills piece that we needed, and so we looked for others, and so there's a Pearson K-5 product that's going to provide us the foundational skills for our primary teachers in teaching the foundational skills. Questions about those bids or the product? I would ask for approval then.
Look for approval.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Lorelei. Any discussion? Good. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Good. Thank you, Dr. Schindler. Appreciate that. Last item, Mr. Enlow has just a couple, as you see there, policies to go over with you from our most recent policy committee meeting, so I'll
Beg
offer
your.
the floor over to Ken.
All right, so we have a pretty good list, so I beg your patience as we go through these. First one, most significant probably, I guess I would say it's most significant. You have a copy of the proposed student attendance areas policy. And this is our proposed first read. I'm not going to read it all. You have a copy of it for your review, and I would ask that, we look over it, ask any questions that you have. The committee spent quite some time looking at all the different issues. We obviously did this. We've had many discussions about the need to initiate review of our attendance policies, not waiting until another building is being built. And so this addresses that issue. Is everybody able to view the document?
No.
You're not?
No.
I was. I mean, I was.
Not right now. There's a glitch.
Okay.
keep it.
Yeah, my
As a group?
board docs is not happy right now either. We can provide a hard copy of.
We can do that.
I mean, I've read through them with, just reviewing with the policy committee, but if we're waiving first read, can we not take these up as a group? Or do we have to, are we gonna individually vote on it?
We're not, no, this one we're not waiving
We're not
first
gonna
read
waive.
on.
No.
No, we were recommending this was the first read on the attendance policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what's
Yep.
going on. I can't get Board Docs to come up here.
And just because of the nature of that.
Joe has terrible internet.
Joe, are you able to,
Thank you.
are you able to open up Board Docs?
No.
Would you
I'm
like
in
to
there,
make
but I
copies?
can't open up any of the attachments.
Thanks, Joe.
Stephanie, could you leave? Do you want us of each of these? Could you make that hard? Can you do it real quick? Do you guys want each one, do you want a copy of these?
Do we need, what's the board's preference?
Which would you prefer?
I've read through them, so I don't feel like I need a copy, but if you could just give a,
I mean, I will give a brief summary on all of the ones we act on. I just wanted to make sure that everyone has seen this particular proposal, because we will come back at the next meeting with the second reading and ask for approval of that policy. So
Hopefully
just to make
everyone's
sure
had
that
an
everyone.
opportunity to read the agenda prior to the meeting, so everybody should
Okay,
have seen the policy.
so if, again, just be prepared to ask any questions that you have. So, moving on, then, we're not asking for action on that, the attendance policy, but I'll move on through these others as quickly as possible. So then DC, policy DC regarding taxing, borrowing authority and limitations. It reflects changes in Missouri statute, which gives bond issuers options in the issuance of process, and is also modified to explain the option for posting notice of tax rate hearings. And the committee recommends waiving the second reading and approving this policy.
Pass the buck.
I'd entertain a motion to approve that.
To approve.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Caroline. Thank you, Lindsay. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay.
All right, GCPE relates to termination of professional staff member. This policy incorporates changes based on Senate bill, which requires public employers to notify relevant retirement systems when an employee is charged or convicted of certain offenses when committed in relation to their position with the employer. Committee recommends waiving the second reading and approval of this policy.
So moved.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Second.
Thank you, Lorelei. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. IGAB relates to instructional interventions, and it is a new policy to cover interventions required or allowed under state law. Specifically comes from the statute that requires districts to screen students for dyslexia and related disorders in accordance with DESE guidelines. We're recommending waiving the second reading and approving this policy.
For approval.
So moved.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Second.
Thank you, Lori. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good.
IGB relates to accommodation of students with disabilities. This is a new policy for a topic previously covered in IGBA, but MSBA is separating language and procedures and the forms for providing special education under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act from other legal obligations of the district to students with disabilities. This is being brought as a first reading based on a recommendation by the policy committee. We have some things that we need to do to make sure that we're compliant with this. So this is the first reading on this particular policy, so we're not requiring any action. The next item is a IGBA regarding special education, and this is a revised and renamed policy to make language applicable to students with disabilities who don't qualify for special education services, but who qualify for accommodations under federal laws. Further revisions provide clarity and remove details that may cause confusion. Finally, the revision adds a definition of private school and revises the extended school year language per recommendation from DESE. We recommend waiving the second reading and approving this policy.
For approval.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Lorelei.
I'll second.
Thank you, Lindsay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed? Go ahead.
IGBC is related to parent and family involvement and engagement. Both state and federal laws require districts to have parent involvement policies, which we do. There have been significant changes in the federal law in the past 2 years. So MSBA has chosen to use parent and family involvement and engagement language in this policy to address these changes. We're recommending waiving the second reading and approving this policy.
For approval.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Lorelei.
Second.
Thank you, Lori. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed.
IGBCA relates to programs for homeless students. MSBA has revised this policy to match changes by DESE in response to the Every Student Succeeds Act. We recommend waiving the second reading and approving this policy.
So moved.
Yep. Thank you. Here, a second.
Second.
Scott. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed.
IGBCB is related to programs for migratory students. Any district that receives Title I funds must provide services to migratory students in the district, and changes in this policy are legally required provisions of federal law. So we recommend waiving the second reading and approving this policy.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Lorelei.
Second.
Thank you, Lori. No discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed.
IGBE is students in foster care, and the policy previously included a dispute resolution process, but that language is being removed as DESE's developed a dispute resolution procedure, which is found in IGBE AP1. So we recommend waiving the second reading and approving this policy.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Lorelei.
Second.
Thank you, Lori. No discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed on that either, go ahead.
All right, IGBH is programs for English learners, and this policy changes reflect changes to state and federal law, including the definition of English learner to include preschool age children, requirement that language.
Sorry. Internet's
Okay.
working now.
I know this is really exciting, so I'm sorry I can't make it more entertaining.
I've read them. They were exciting.
All right, so this, where was I?
I don't blame you.
IGBH, all right, so it meets the requirement that the language use survey be administered to students when they enroll. It incorporates parental rights in the policy and immigrant reporting. This is being brought as a first reading based on recommendation of the policy committee. Again, there's some things that we have to do to be compliant, and so we will be working to administer those changes to become compliant, so no action required at this point. IGC is extended instructional programs. MSBA has moved some of the components of this policy to a new policy, IGAB, and added some language to summer school section to reflect offering by some districts of summer enrichment programs. We're recommending waiving the second reading and approving this policy.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Lorelei.
A second.
Thank you, Lindsay. Discussion? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. IGCD, related to virtual courses. It's a new policy to comply with state laws that created Missouri Course Access Program. Under MOCAP, the course providers must have their virtual courses approved by DESE. Providers can be for-profit, nonprofit, or public school districts, and we recommend waiving second reading and approving this policy.
So moved.
Thank you, Lorelei.
Second.
Thank you, Scott. No discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. And IGCE is related to non-traditional instruction options, revision of the policy to align with the new IGCD virtual course policy, an update to the DESE graduation handbook, which addresses requirements and limitations for off-campus instruction opportunities. We recommend waiving the second reading and approving this policy.
So moved.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Second.
Thank you, Lori. No discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good.
And finally, I'm going to let Shelby maybe have some of the thunder here, but this is GDPE-1 related to early notification of resignation to support staff members. Shelby, do you want to, I don't know if you all had a chance to, but it basically allows the district to recruit employee and appropriately trained replacement employees, and it provides a incentive for early notification at least 60 days prior to an effective date.
So this just mirrors our certified incentive that we offer by December 1st to get $750 at the end of the school year. Well, this is for in support staff positions, so typically people give 2 weeks notice, and we hope that this would give an opportunity where people let us know if they're going to retire, so we can work on a succession plan when we know that someone's leaving. So if they give us a 60-day notice, and that helps us with a better transition when we are recruiting and trying to hire quality people and making sure their onboarding is good, because if the person that's leaving can give them some on-the-job training, we hope. So we hope to get that in place and make it retroactive to January 1, pending your approval, for anybody that might be considering retirement or leaving and moving off that incentive.
Yeah. So this is, the recommendation of the committee is that we waive the second reading and approve this policy retroactive to January 1, 2019.
May I hear a motion?
Oh, so motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Lindsay. Any discussion? Oh,
Yeah.
Lorelei. Sorry. Any discussion? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. We good? Thanks, kid.
I feel like you need a round of
Thank you,
applause.
Ken.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure you don't have any more?
I would, no,
lift.
listen, I would, it's my understanding that we need to act on those individual, or separately, is that correct? So I'd be more than, I would love your idea of being able to incorporate all those separately, but the only thing I would say is that, again, we look forward to the second read of the attendance policy and approval of that in our next meeting.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks, Ken. Appreciate your work on that policy. Last item of business is Lorelei's favorite. Read that for you.
Here, I printed it.
Oh, thank you. Motion to suspend open to enter into closed meeting by roll call vote pursuant to Chapter 6.610.021 of the revised statutes of Missouri, Sections 1, legal actions, causes of action or litigation involving a public governmental body. 3, hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting or particular employees. 13, individually identifiable personnel records. And 14, records which are protected from disclosure by law. That's my motion.
Second. Thank you. Call vote when you're ready.
You all right, Scott?
No.
Yes.
Lindsay, Lorelei,
Yes.
Rich,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. We'll take a 10